Welcome to Real Talk, Indiana's premier talk show on real estate investing, where we talk each week about investing your money right here in Central Indiana. The tips, tricks, do's, and don'ts, brought to you by CIREIA, Central Indiana's oldest and largest real estate investing association. Hello there. My name is Vicki Perry, and I'm the Executive Director of CIREIA. We have over 600 members, all active in or learning how to be active in real estate here in the Indiana market. This radio show is available on FM 95.9, AM 950, podcast on YouTube, and www.cireia.org. Join us each week as we talk about how you can make your money more active with better returns and help the community that you live in with real estate done the right way. Now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the program. My name is Ron Watson. I'm the president of the board of directors of CIREIA, and this is Real Talk Radio, the only local real estate investing radio show where active investors discuss real estate investing done the right way every Saturday and Sunday from noon until 1 p.m. We're going to be discussing some of the headlines that are affecting the real estate investing world today, and you can check out how to contact each of our co-hosts on our website at cireia.org and find out how to reference the materials we're going to be talking about as well. So joining me today are three of the top investors in Central Indiana. First is Dave Short with Century 21 Sheets. Dave's an investor, realtor, coach, mentor, and one of the most sought-after rehabbers in Central Indiana. Welcome back to the program, Dave.
Great to be here.
And Brian Snyder, operations manager for Simple Wholesaling, one of the top wholesalers in the state of Indiana. Welcome again, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
And sitting in today for Sterling Davis is Elizabeth Sickles, owner, coach, and consultant for short-term rentals and Airbnb superstar. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much.
We have a bunch of information here today that we wanted to go through and talk about and get some opinions on. I thought what we would do is to start with this concept, this terminology I have not heard of. Maybe you guys have. So I wanted to throw it out and see what you all thought. We've talked a lot about millennials and investors and how we target and kind of try to accommodate them in terms of our perspective in investing. Gosh, that's easy for me to say, right? And this is called HENRY. All right, it's an acronym that stands for High Earners Not Rich Yet. That's interesting. I didn't know if maybe you guys have heard this before. But it describes a niche subset of the population that represents the next generation of wealth. And Henrys are comprised largely of millennials and some of the youngest members of Generation X who earn an annual household income of more than $100,000. And as these top earners are well on their way to becoming tomorrow's affluent consumer, real estate professionals are best suited to start paying attention to this influential demographic right now. And I thought this was an interesting topic. I haven't really personally heard of this before. So let's just start out. I'd like to get everyone's opinion on this. Dave, have you heard this term? What does it mean to you?
I have not heard the term, even though I've been trying to cater to them and didn't know what they were called. So,
did you have another name for them, Dave?
I don't know. But I mean, an example that we're doing right now it's for I guess it's for a Henry. We're doing a house in Fountain Square right now, and we're trying to hit a market that is not what everybody else is hitting in Fountain Square. We're wanting the compact house, for lack of a better term, instead of the really big house. So we're coming to marketplace with a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house. And we're trying to hit a price point of $250 to $255 instead of what's out in the marketplace that we've done in the past that's been $320 to $330 to $340. There's lots and lots and lots of those kind of houses in the $320 to $350 in Fountain Square, but you can count on your fingers how many there is at $250 in Fountain Square. And we see that these people that are buying this type of house, they're making a lot of money, and they're technically way under buying their income. But they like to do so many other things that's we wouldn't think about doing because we just had to go to work every day. And,
Right.
They make their money and they want to spend it on stuff that's not housing related.
Well, okay, so I want to get everyone else's opinion because I think that's exactly what we're talking about here. This article describes those kinds of buyers, and it sounds like they're really they're good buyers to tap into because they do have money. They're a little more discerning. In this case, what this description says is they're willing to pay more for what they want and value in a home, i.e., finishes, neighborhood amenities. The demographic of the area in which they live in, walkability of the neighborhoods, all those kinds of things. The lifestyle is really what they're buying. So they're not just looking at the house, they're looking at where the house is and what's all around the house and everything else they could do in that neighborhood and all those kinds of things.
And our houses are, like you said, amenity strong in that, in this little 1,200 square foot house, our bathroom will be comparable to any $400,000 house in Marion County, and our kitchen will be comparable to any, $400,000 house with its size and features and appliances and granite countertops or quartz countertops. So, we're making these houses amenity strong with not a lot of square footage that we would think we have to sell.
Yeah. So Brian and Elizabeth, I'm curious if you're seeing this similar developments and how you're working with these types of buyers, and if that's something that makes sense for you. I'm sure, Elizabeth, you're seeing that quite a bit with Airbnb, right?
We do. We have 2 brand new clients. Our first client, and both of the husbands are in the tech field, and they want to travel. Both have young families. They're millennials. The one family has a little baby. The other one, they have 2 small children. And they said, hey, while the kids are young and we can go around, we can travel the U.S. That's what we're going to do. So it's really interesting what they've done with their houses, because they want to keep their houses. They want to have a home base. Our one family that we'll bring them on board. It'll be the end of this month. They're going to come back and forth, so they're going to travel for 3 months at a time. They're going to stay gone for all of our big conventions, so they can really reap those rewards.
There you go. So they're renting the property when they're gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and then our other one, the one with the one small child, they're going to be gone for the whole year. So they started out in Florida for the holidays, and then they're going out to the West Coast and hitting every place in between.
Interesting. So they're funding some of that travel by renting out their property, right?
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Brian, when you're looking at it from a little different angle from the wholesaling side, but does this something that makes sense or rings true for you as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of look at that, that Henry generation of what they're calling is basically, I just refer to them as basically the savvy people, that they want to know, they know what they want to do with their money. Yeah. So, they're the ones that are going to buy, that we see a lot of people of them house hacking even too.
Yeah.
So they might buy a duplex, live on one side, rent out the other, earn that money. But then they're doing all kinds of stuff with their money. They want to be able to basically just get that return in any way that they can. So I look at it as an investor standpoint of if I can provide them with basically with something that they can actually get that return on their money, whether they want to flip it themselves or just get into investing in real estate in general, because they're looking for whatever they can to invest that money in. Actually, I was just talking to somebody that fits right in this category right now. He's one of our investors from California, but he also basically he will just get websites up and going. Basically, once they get so many followers behind them, people start putting ads on there. Then what he does is he rents the website out for a month for $500, and he has 40 of these going right now.
40?
40 of them.
Wow.
So it's just crazy. So I just look at the Henrys. So we look at it here in Indianapolis of if these are people that, like I said, they're savvy with their money. They know what they want to do. So can we provide them as investors with the opportunities that they need to be able to do to get that return on their investment?
Well, I think in the flipping side of this it's pretty interesting because where we do, we try to find product, which is hard to do in areas like Broad Ripple and some of the other areas in town that hit the millennials, and now my new term, the Henrys. But we had a circumstance like this about 6 months ago in a flip that we did in a really right by the Monon Trail. It's high traffic, high desirability, but this was not a very big house. But we made this house really, really special, and we priced it what we thought was a fair price. And we had an agent call us and say, Well, based on what I'm seeing, I think you're a little overpriced. You have a really nice house, and but we just can't justify the price that you're asking for the house. Would your seller take in any less money for the house? And I said, well, I agree with everything that you're saying, but should I reject the other 4 full price offers that I have? And
so that would be a no. Probably.
That would be a no.
Yeah, okay,
and then the agent, basically, after she was trying to negotiate for her client, sent me over an over-asking price offer for the house.
Well, it's worth a shot, I guess.
Worth the shot. So,
but that's a great point, because it's like you redefine. So the comps didn't work, really, is what you're saying.
The comps didn't work,
right.
but I know the value was
right.
there, and I knew we would have buyers coming and looking at our product. So what that makes me as 3 years ago, I wouldn't have tackled an 800 square foot house in the Broad Ripple neighborhood. Because I did think I could get it strong enough to attract what I had to pay for the house. And now I know I can overnice it and get somebody that's really coming into the marketplace, that square footage is not their biggest key. And the article goes on to say, which I think is pretty interesting, is agents need to be retrained. In our marketplace.
Dave, when you're talking about like some of so you're basically the compact, the more compact houses where, you're dealing with a less square footage, what are some of the things that you see that maybe, 10 years ago that people were buying for that they're not buying for now? Like example, I think of the dining room, like basically a lot of
they're buying the space.
Right.
They felt that they had to have 3 bedrooms on the space. Well, now we can put that square footage in the basement and feel pretty comfortable that we can have nice living space. Things that we do on a 700 square foot house that we wouldn't have done in the past is we'll spend X number of dollars waterproofing that basement so it has a 20-year guarantee, and then we'll go downstairs and put living space. People think that, okay, I can't have living space in the basement. Well, we can put an egress window there where it can qualify as living space for relatively, not a lot of expense. So we can adapt and make the square footages. And some of the things that we've done in these smaller houses, for instance, is the bathrooms are so tiny. Well, as much as I hate to, I might take 2 feet out of one of the bedrooms and make that a blowout bathroom in the house. It doesn't cost us a lot of money to do that. And they kind of look past the second bedroom because it's either a nursery or it's an office, so it still has the flexibility of space. And then sometimes they go into the basement for their living space. So there's lots of things we can do with a tiny house. But that's just some of the things that we look at and why we can look at different areas today than we could in the past.
Right. And as we're talking about like millennials and Henrys and Gen X and stuff like that, Elizabeth, I wanted to ask you, because I'm always just intrigued by just the rise of just the Airbnb market. I mean, that's when we travel, we're always doing Airbnbs, and I love that's when we took the team to Florida a couple of weeks ago. That's what we used.
He's always talking about going to Florida when we were here.
Sort of rub it in here a little bit since you guys had the snowstorm, Ron. But Elizabeth, I want to ask you, like, what are some of the things that when people are, because that's how millennials and Henrys and Gen X, that's how they're traveling now through Airbnb. So what are some of the things that they want to see in a house, or things that you guys are putting in your house that like, hey, I know this is going to get rented out because of this?
Sure. So one of the things we've seen is people want luxury properties. So right now we're in our slow season. Slow season for short-term rentals here in Indianapolis is November through February, but our luxury properties are still booking up. So I think number one, that's just people that the Henrys, right? They have this extra money. You have the older people, actually specifically for Airbnb, their largest demographic of growth is 60 plus. So age 60 plus.
Define higher end Airbnbs or luxury.
Yeah. So the granite countertops, you have all the new tiling in the bathrooms.
Not just square footage.
That's correct. No, not even square footage. We love our 1-1s, so our 1 bedroom, 1 bath. People love them. We can charge more because they are so nice. We put nicer amenities in there as well. Obviously, more decorations, but also the bed bath count is very important here. So if you go over 2 bedroom, you need more than 2 full bathrooms, and that's because we've seen such a huge rise. About 70 to 75% of our guests are traveling for business. So that's a big factor in what people are looking for when they book with us.
I'm just reminded of a conversation of my wife and I as we're looking for Airbnbs, where I'm like, hey, this one's a little cheaper. And she's like, oh, but this one's so cute. So
Yeah. And also the other big thing is people want a great kitchen. They want that higher end, they want the nicer appliances. And even though literally the only people that cook in our properties are Europeans, and if people are here visiting family for the holidays. That's it. They do not touch our kitchen.
But it's an important factor when their decision-making process starts.
Yes, sir.
And well, that's really what you're talking about too, Dave, is those kinds of things. They probably really want to see the nice kitchen. So you put some more money in the kitchen, the countertops, and the bathrooms.
More money. I mean,
nice.
our kitchen cabinets are, they're a little bit higher end, soft closed doors. There's just a lot of things that can go into a kitchen that doesn't, the difference between a full kitchen or a Lowe's box cabinet that you'd put in a rental and a high-end kitchen that you'd use in Fountain Square might only be $500 for the cabinets. And we make up the difference with countertops and appliances and sinks and faucets and, that kind of stuff. So it's not that much more to make it nice.
Are you looking at, and so what you're doing in Fountain Square, you mentioned you're doing a similar project there. Was that the first one that you've done kind of like that, or
it was
in that
the first
area?
one we've done from the size standpoint.
Okay.
We weren't trying to get as much square footage and that we wanted. We just knew we needed the amenities, or we wanted the amenities that would attract to that person, that if they want to travel 6 months a year, this is a 90 to 200 a night Airbnb, depending on timing of the year.
Wow, that's interesting. So people, I hadn't even thought about it from that. It's like double level thinking. They're first thinking about what they want in their house and the way the functionality that's there, the amenities. But as they make that decision, they're also thinking about, well, what if we want to travel and we want to, think about somebody else that wants to be in here and rent it out at the same time. That's interesting. I don't. It seems like a newer trend, in my opinion. Does that just me? I'm just behind the times, or?
No, it is new. And actually, I do a lot of consulting on people that are rehabbing the houses because they want to keep in mind, well, if we don't keep it, if we don't put it as a traditional rental, if we want to do Airbnb, how does this need to be laid out?
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. So they're thinking about other. I mean, usually when you buy a house, or often when you do, you're thinking about, well, 10, 15 years down the road, I'm going to sell it, and what's, is it going to be an area in which will be desirable? So it's a different mindset, it's a different thought process for a lot of these houses.
Well, if
now.
people today, and especially in these kinds of neighborhoods, aren't thinking about, if I want to be gone for 2 weeks, I really don't want the cost of my house, and we can put somebody in there, and if you can travel around the Indianapolis 500 race and take your 2 weeks in Florida or Europe or wherever you want to go, chances are somebody can go in that house and you'll not have a house payment for 2 months.
Yeah, that's exactly what this article dives into, the fact that that's what this generation is all about. Even if you're traveling for 2 weeks out of the year, you can get that vacation basically paid for because you can rent out your house.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's a whole different mindset that you haven't really. I hadn't wrapped my mind around yet. To be honest with you, I wonder how. Does anybody have an idea? And you're talking about Airbnb, but just regular a landlord. Does that somehow come into play? Do you think in terms of what landlords are doing?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it. We're doing another flip on in Irvington. Same way. We did one side. It's a house hacking deal that we talk about, where somebody can buy this house and live in it for $150, $150,000 house. Their cost to live in this house is $150 a month when they rent one side of it. And
right.
If they choose to travel for 2 weeks for business or whatever, they can put Irvington's a very hot Airbnb right now. They could put somebody in there and probably make money on their house, and they're not even there.
Wow.
They just have to rent it one night, and they've got free, no payment for that month.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, as far as the landlording goes, you see a lot of people doing that, buying. That's why I think in Indy, the duplexes, triplexes, any any multi-units are super hot right now because you can actually get somebody to live in one of those units and then basically just rent out the rest. And
right.
For essentially the cost of just a single family home.
So that really leads me into another article that I want to talk about a little bit more detail after we take a break. It's about a younger couple and what they did to help pay off some student loan debt, and they did that via real estate and buying a duplex. So we'll probably get back into that in a little bit more detail and discuss this opportunity after we take a quick break. And welcome back to Real Talk. My name is Ron Watson, president of the board of directors of CIREIA, and your host today. In the room with me is Dave Short, Brian Snyder, and Elizabeth Sickles. And we were having an interesting discussion about a new term that some of us haven't heard of before, which is the Henrys. I'm going to go back and remember and say, define it again. High earners, not rich yet. It doesn't come off the top of my tongue just yet. High earners, not rich yet. Okay. And it's really sort of a subset of millennials that is very interesting in terms of what they're doing and how they're thinking and what's driving their buying decisions. There was an article I wanted to mention that I read, and it really fits into what we were just talking about, which was this couple in their 20s explained how real estate investing helped them pay back over $170,000 in student loan debt. So one woman of this couple went to law school for some unknown reason. I don't know what that was about, but she ended up with some debt, of course, and they bought a duplex and then lived in one side of the duplex, rented out the other side, and used the income from that to help pay off that loan. And so I thought that's interesting, and it's really along the lines of what we were just talking about with some of the other investors and the Henrys, for example. I think, Brian, you mentioned something along those lines just before the break about what you're seeing. You're seeing some of that same kind of thing, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm quite often in Indianapolis. I think because you can, so for example, we have one of our team members is actually buying a house that we picked up and that we're wholesaling. So we're wholesaling it to one of our own team members. But he's basically buying a property. It's going to be somewhere around, $80,000. He's going to get, has to get lending on it and everything like that. So he's going to have a mortgage. I think his mortgage is going to be maybe around $700. Mm-hmm. The other one side of the duplex is already rented out for $700.
Oh, nice.
So that's paid for. And then he's also going to have some roommates. He's 24 years old. So he's going to have some of his buddies move in with him, pay him rent. So he's going to be way ahead on what he's doing. But I see that a common trend. We actually, a lot of people around the city, a lot of people through CIREIA are doing this right now, of where, I think it's really hot to be able to do it with duplexes where you can live in, buy it, live in one side, rent out the other. And just like this couple did here, being able to pay off your student loan debt is just amazing to be able to do that and basically be ahead on your mortgage and everything as well.
Yeah, and it takes some information, education, a little bit of knowledge. Because you are a landlord at that point, right? So you're mm-hmm. renting, and the people that you're renting to are right next to you. So, I'm a landlord, and the houses that we rent, we just generally don't have our tenants know where I live. And we get along well with it. We haven't really had any issues, but I think just a general rule. But so in this case, you're living next to them, so that presents some issues and some things you got to be aware of and be prepared for. And maybe it's not for everybody, but you got to educate yourself on what it's like to be a landlord and what responsibilities you're going to have. So it's not just free, easy money, but it's a great concept. It's a great way of doing something. And I know people that are working with you on the Airbnb side are doing some similar things too, right, Elizabeth?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. It's a great way to make the extra money that you need.
And so are you talking to buyers that are actually buying specifically for that reason to rent out some of it, side of it, and then live in the other side of it? Or have you run into much of that so far?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And a lot of times what they like to do is they want to try the Airbnb out on one side or one room,
uh-huh.
and then keep the other one for a traditional rental, so they know that that's coming in all the time.
Interesting. So you can have a little bit of combination of both,
mm-hmm.
and in the same place. And I know it may be a relatively new concept, but what do they end up doing usually? Do they just end up saying, well, I'm just going to do Airbnb the whole property, or have you seen that yet? Is it too soon to tell?
It's too soon to tell, but
okay.
They are very happy, and we have a lot of clients that we have multiple properties with. So.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. So and so these Henrys, Dave, we're going to go with the Henry terminology on this.
Okay.
one. That's what we're talking about here, because it makes sense. They're young, they're professional, they have some money, and they're thinking about the way they're investing and buying a little differently than the traditional way that we used to think about it 30 years ago. And I know you're involved in some of these types of projects where you're looking to build or rehab or not build but rehab some properties to fit into these categories.
Well, that's some of the things you can really learn at CIREIA. You can take this Henry. It's like if you're disciplined and know your disciplines. You can really take facets of real estate and build wealth fairly quickly. For instance, we have a young couple that is starting to buy houses. Now they're buying houses that I've told them I don't think they should buy, but their program is that, okay, if you can do this, it will work. But they're buying very low income houses, fixing them themselves, and then putting somebody in. Well, at a really pretty aggressive rental rate. Well, what's happening to this couple, and I said, if you can continue this, you'll build wealth very quickly. And that they're buying a $20,000 house, putting $10,000 in, they're borrowing the $30,000 from what we would classify as a private lender or hard money lender, and paying a 8, 9, 10% interest rate. But if they rent that house, which they can for $600 a month, they can pay that mortgage off in almost 5 years, 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So all of a sudden, they now have built a $30,000 equity into a $50,000 free and clear equity in just a 7 years' time. Well, that's more than this couple makes. And it's done from almost a no-down perspective, and
Right.
It's sweat equity,
Yeah.
Sweat equity in investment property, and they can do their own management. They can do their own, a lot of their repairs. So we call that, it used to be a model people coming in. It's 2.5, 3 years. If the rent will pay for the house in 2.5 or 3 years, then this model will work even with some vacancy. But and I've always told this and said this, the real estate is just the vehicle for wealth. The management is the key to the wealth.
Right. And
if you can manage, Elizabeth's business is a tough business if you can't manage. Her business is 80% managing on it. And, so my business, if we have any rentals, it's the management of the property. And can you do it yourself? You can save a lot of money and get the better tenants if you're there fixing the stuff. So it's just another avenue that people that are maybe, like you said, not yet high earners can do.
So we have a really good another example kind of just based off of this. So I had somebody one of our investors, he's bought from us in the past, but he just bought a duplex last week. One of the units is really close to being rent ready, so he's just going to fix that up, get a renter in there right now. But the house, the duplex itself, is in a really high appreciation area. So basically what he's going to do while he has that one side rented out, he is going to fix up with a high end stuff on the one side. And then basically once he gets that finished, he's going to move that renter into the other side. They already have an agreement, and then he's going to fix up that other side. So in a year and a half, he does the BRRRR strategy all the time. So he's just going to refinance and go with it from that point. So now he's in his mindset, he's like, I have a renter in there that's going to be living in both my units while I'm fixing the other side. Somebody there to watch the contractors going in. Anybody's going in and out. Somebody's there at the property. I don't have to be there. And so it's a great strategy, I think.
Yeah, it is interesting. So for some that don't know what the BRRRR strategy is, can you just give a real high-level overview of that?
Yeah, so the BRRRR, a real high-level one? So.
Yeah, high level. High.
So the BRRRR strategy is where you're going to buy a property, you're going to renovate it, you're going to rent it out, you're going to refinance it, and then you're going to redo it. Okay. So just basically kind of using that money to keep doing it over and over.
Right.
So the other thing that we're really pushing, perfect example, is my son's been in the real estate business for 9 years now, and he's got my grandkids that need a college education, and I'm hoping that I don't have to pay for it. But he's a good kid, but I'm saying, let's get something bought so it pays off when these kids hit college. And now you can just refinance it and pay for their college on a year. And then after they're through with the college, you may or may not have debt that's being supported by tenants living in these houses. So you should have 3 houses that's going to pay off, one in 11 years, one in 13 years, and one in 20 years on it. And you won't have to worry about your kids' education.
I like that. That's great. So he has 3 kids, apparently.
He has 3 kids.
Right, so that's a good way to do it. Yeah, so the Burr strategy, the Henry, we got all kinds of acronyms for this. We should put together like a cheat sheet so everybody knows. I mean, there's more.
Well, you're
right?
the only one who don't know.
I don't know. I know. I don't know why. I'm just like, I think there's 2 people listening that don't know either. So I'm talking to those people out there right now. Like, we're on the same wavelength here. But yeah, I'm in a little bubble. I own a restaurant, by the way, so I know how to cook food, and I don't get to see anything else, apparently, at this point. But we're going to come back. We're going to have a lot more information about investing and some of the things that are happening here in central Indiana. We've got a couple of more articles I wanted to highlight and talk about. Maybe we'll come up with another acronym we can define and talk about as well. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this message. And welcome back to Real Talk. My name is Ron Watson, the president of the board of directors of CIREIA, and today we're joined by Dave Short, Brian Snyder, and Elizabeth Sickles. We've been talking about various projects and investment strategies and real estate investing and how that might impact and affect real estate investors here in central Indiana. And we're looking at an article we're going to talk about a little bit next, which is talking about the mortgage delinquency rates for all loan types have continued to fall. This was, and it mentions in this article that loans originated in 2015 and 16 have performed the best. So this is a recent article about, and I won't go into all the details on the numbers here, but I thought it was interesting to talk about. So I know, Dave, you had a thought on this concept, and I wanted to get your opinion on what you think's happening here and what this means.
Well, in my reference is, I go to the Marion County Sheriff's sale every month and try to buy a house that we can flip, and so I see all different kinds of product come through that, and I'll reference 7 years ago when we were going to the Marion County Sheriff's sale, there'd be anywhere from 700 to 1,000 properties go through the system on it. So. But it was a situation where, lenders wouldn't want to loan us money to buy these properties, so we couldn't, take advantage of maybe the full opportunity that was there. Where yesterday there was a sale in Marion County that had 200 properties on it instead of the 1,000 that we were at 7 years ago. Yeah. And we see a lot of different balances, and quite honestly, of the 200 yesterday, almost 120 of these properties were removed, meaning that the people solved their problem and didn't go to the sheriff's sale, the foreclosure sale. So that means in Marion County, only 80 houses sold yesterday to either investors or to banks, which says we're in a good place when it comes to delinquency of houses. What was really interesting about the article is that most of the delinquencies, severe delinquencies that we're seeing today is loans that were originated 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and they're just now getting through the system to be resold and returned to the bank so they can, save some of their assets. And some of these things take a long time to go through the process because the banks have been very negligent, in trying to get the houses back because they didn't want them back. Yeah. And then we also see that the highest delinquency rates that we're seeing today, and we're defining delinquencies over 90 days past due, is FHA loans that's been originated since 2015. Well, that sounds bad on paper, but FHA expects a higher delinquency rate on their mortgages because they're loaning it to people who maybe hasn't established their credit basis as yet, and for honestly, the government's taking a chance on those people. Right. But even based on the numbers that we looked at 2.7, 2.08, when we say FHA is the highest delinquency rate, it's still really good. I mean, it's very little delinquency in relationship to what we saw 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago in these properties.
Do you have an idea for why you think that has decreased, like in that last 7 years? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, underwriting today is much stricter, even on FHAs, on any of the insured conventionals. Insured conventionals, I'm just defining of less than 20% down. So the scrutiny of these buyers and the stuff that they need to go through to get this mortgage is much stricter than it was in 2008, 2009, 2010. If you could show air on a mirror, we could get you a mortgage. And we had, we placed loans in the brokerage side of it. It was no income verification, no credit checks, and they would loan you 120% of the appraised value. I mean, it was that crazy of people wanting to get loans because there was a place to back these loans, the federal government. Mm-hmm. So they're saying maybe this isn't our best approach to housing. And so they've taken a much stricter look, and this is why Freddie and Fannie now have good portfolios of loans, and they can sell their products.
So when you said like yesterday at the tax sale, there was 200 houses like originally, and then 120 of them were basically kind of taken off the docket just because they they were able to figure out that situation. Do you think part of that is because there are people that just real estate investors in general that are kind of helping them out, get from those situations where they're buying their properties from them for cash?
It's probably a very small percentage.
Okay.
And the only reason I say that is the mortgage balances that were being foreclosed was higher than the fair market value of the properties. And I'm talking about fair market values based on what we would take as investors to try to make a profit on a resale. They may owe $150,000 on a $150,000 house, but it's still. And the beauty with the stuff that we see delinquent today versus what we saw delinquent from 2010, 2011, the people today, they're homeowners, and they're fighting to keep their house. They've just had bad stuff happen to them, mm-hmm. and now the government has recognized that. I mean, if you've had catastrophic medical bills and can't pay your payment, the governments or the banks even are letting you, take a furlough on their payments that you've missed in the past and maybe put it on the back end. So people are keeping their homes and fighting to keep their homes. We see that a lot with our foreclosures where things are removed from the sales, that people are actually fighting to keep their homes, where in 2010, 11, 12, they weren't fighting because they had no skin in the game. It was silly for them to fight for something that they never could recover from. So there's all kinds of government stuff out there, programs that can help these people. We've been involved in some negotiations with banks that will blow your mind to keep people in a house, and their success rate is exceptionally high.
Well, that's great. They have motivation, they have reason, they have a pride of ownership, all those things want to keep them in the house. I know when that time frame you're talking about, I looked at places when the foreclosure rates were really, really, really bad. And I was in Florida looking at some houses down there, and what I was seeing when these vacant properties.
Vacant subdivisions.
Yeah, absolutely. They were $1 million 3 years ago, and they were selling for $300,000. But you go into the houses, and then all the fixtures were gone. There was no, it was just like a bare box. When they left, they took everything with them because they wanted to make it as difficult as they could on those lenders to try to get some of their money back. But so I'm glad that we're not seeing that kind of thing. And I don't know that we saw that here in Indy, but that was happening.
There was some of that stuff.
Some of that going on
for sure, but not like it was because it was just an overbuilt situation where houses were pre-sold with the thought of we're just going to resell it again.
Yeah.
I have friends of mine that own real estate in Florida that still hasn't recovered in value because they bought at the time when everybody was just assuming that the interest or the inflation would continue to, the what I would call hyperinflation.
Right.
And I kept telling my friends, this isn't going to, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. Don't do this. And
Right. I was one of the. I bought a condo in Florida for like $125,000 and got an offer 6 months later for $180 to sell it. And I was thinking, well, I think I'll wait a couple months and get 200, and then that'd be a good idea. Didn't actually work out that way, but back to Indiana.
That's one of those how not to wholesale kind of things.
Well, I thought I was pretty much a genius at that point.
Well, the mortgage delinquency rates basically affect what I try to do in the sheriff sales, because that's what we see. And but I can basically take this article and I can picture the sale from yesterday and see how accurate this is. Because the loans that's 8 and 9 years old, they're way overvalued in relationship to the price of the property. And it's taken these banks sometimes 2 and 3 and 4 years to get these properties back, where people still living in the house and haven't made a payment for 8 years. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. I wanted to, we only have about a minute and a half in this segment, but I wanted to just briefly mention this article that I saw that talks about the red line construction to close part of Virginia Avenue in Indy. I know that they wanted to expand that, the bus line basically, and I know that some people are excited about this, some people aren't. Have you guys seen much information about this or had any feedback from anybody in terms of investment and how that might affect where you want to buy a house?
We've had some of our Broad Ripple flips have brought it up that it's going to be our transportation downtown.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's going to help a couple streets downtown. I mean, college going downtown will look quite a bit different in the next year and a half. Shelby Street will look quite a bit different near Garfield Park and heading into Fountain Square. It will look substantially different. So it's like, I hate it, but I'm going to pass that. I think it might be better. I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because I can already see some of the changes in road conditions and some of the stops they're putting up that, hey, they're serious about this and it's coming, so let's embrace it.
Yeah, there's going to be some negativity around it just because there's
There
road
always
closure and
is.
stuff. But, as far as Indy goes, I mean, I don't think it's a city. It's definitely not a city known for its public transportation.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I don't think about it or anything.
That's true.
So anything that kind of puts it in the forefront and that makes it an option for a lot of people, just any improvements, like I say, let's do it and let's see what happens.
All right, that sounds good. I think that's reasonable, and it's hard to talk about trying to build a subway or anything like that here. So these types of things that are doable, at least, we'll have to see how it works out. But it does help some people, and we'll see what the future holds there. But we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back to our last segment and wrap up the show right after this message. And welcome back to Real Talk. I'm Ron Watson, the president of the board of directors of CIREIA, and we have Dave Short, Brian Snyder, and Elizabeth Sickles with us today. I wanted to kind of begin the wrap-up process here with Elizabeth. She's very much involved with Airbnb rentals here in Indianapolis, which is real interesting what's going on there and what she's doing. And I wanted to give her an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that and that business before we run out of time here today. So, Elizabeth, can you just expand upon a little bit more about what you're doing and how that process works here in Indianapolis?
Yes, sir. So we are very honored. I'm honored to call Indianapolis home. I moved here just 2 years ago and fell in love with the city. I was here for a 1-month internship back in November of 2016. So made the move from Ann Arbor, Michigan. So it was quite a move and difference in culture and everything else. And one of the things, so we do some really cool things in the short-term rental market. And what short-term rental means is that you're staying someplace for less than 30 nights. So we do everything from buying the property for our clients. We have a lot of local clients as well as clients from California to New York. We'll run the rehab for them. We do all the design work, the furnishing, and then the complete hosting and property management. So if you are a traditional landlord, this is nothing like a traditional landlord. I got a call one time at 12:33 in the morning asking me where trash bags were. When we have problems, it's exasperated because, number one, we want all of our guests to really love their stay here in Indianapolis, because myself and my team, they all love Indy. So when in 1 week last year, we had 3 hot water heaters that went out in the same week. And so my contractors are fantastic. They know the urgency in that. It's really cool to be able to do the Airbnbs, because not only are we here for professionals that are, if they've traveled their whole life, they've been stuck in a hotel room, and so we're a great option for them to be staying in. And then also we do a lot of cool stuff where we've had our guests, as far as we've had performers for the Lion King that have been with us. We've had stage crew from who's the big singer, Taylor Swift, that was just here.
Yeah.
And we've moved into
Rob liked that one.
I did. I took my daughter, by the way.
Did you? We also have, it's really cool just how our business has evolved from in the very beginning, which I started in September of 17, where we had a lot more people traveling for personal, and now it's very much moved into the business side. For example, next weekend we have people coming in from Carvana that are going to be with us for the whole weekend, and they rented our townhouse.
Nice.
It was a great booking.
I just had a question about that, and I don't want to interrupt you, but because I did a lot of traveling as well. So businesses, they don't have any issue with their employees staying at Airbnbs, right? I mean, it's reimbursable and all that. There's no problems with that.
It just depends. So Airbnb has a specific segment called Airbnb for Work.
Okay.
And they have over 700,000 companies worldwide signed up for that.
Oh, okay.
And they their statistic for 2017, because it's the latest available, was that businesses saved on average 49%.
Oh, wow.
By sending their people on Airbnb.
That's great.
So one of the things that we've seen too is that as the bedroom count increases, so does the bathroom count. And we believe that specifically because we have so many more colleagues that are traveling together.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
again, it's moving from that leisure, even though we still have a ton of that. But it's okay to share a bathroom with family or friends, but
Right.
colleagues, whole new
Not
story.
so much, right?
Yeah. And I can tell you too, like just some of the other fun things, we have a lot of, so I used to like sports, but now I love sports.
There you go. All right.
Because when our Colts are doing great, we get to charge even more.
Yeah.
We have people coming in this weekend for the Pacers game, also for a swim meet. We get people from Grand Park, clear up in Westfield, that stay down in Indianapolis. Yeah. So it's really interesting what we get to see. And then, of course, the conventions. We just got 2 bookings yesterday for the Beachbody convention, which that's a workout, eat healthy.
Yeah, Brian's going to be part of that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Going to headline. So again, we get to see a little bit of everything and provide housing for all these types of
Awesome.
people.
How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you and contact you and know more about you?
Sure. Go ahead. You can email me at Elizabeth@ElizabethMaora. So that's Maora. And my tip for the week, especially since we're in the middle of winter here in Indianapolis, and I took a very nasty fall on on Monday. If you don't want to use ice, if you have a brick sidewalk, then you can use kitty litter. So it's a nice alternative.
Good idea. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. I really appreciate all that information. I'm learning more about that process, and it's quite intriguing. So we appreciate having you here and part of the show.
Thank you.
Brian, can you give us a little bit of information about you guys?
Yeah, so Brian Snyder from Simple Wholesaling. You can reach out to me at just brian@simplewholesaling.com. That's BRIAN at simplewholesaling.com. And check out our website, too. We have a podcast that Brett Snodgrass and I do on there. We have articles. We have simple guides. We also do a meetup once a month. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month. And that's kind of leads into my tip for the week is check out all these small the subgroups that you can see through, or you can go to through CIREIA. Go on their website, check out all the subgroups that they have. But I was kind of talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about our subgroup and what we do and things, and he just had a couple other questions about other stuff, and I was like, you can go visit these other subgroups. Like you'll find wholesalers in there as well. You'll learn a little bit about other things. You can find buyers, add to your buyers list, and so I don't think people really take advantage of going out and visiting all the other subgroups too. Sometimes they just find their one and stick to that group, but go out and check out all the other ones as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate that. And last but not least, Dave Short.
I'm Dave Short. I'm with Century 21 Sheets. The best way to get me is my email, dshort@c21sheets.com. And Sheets is SCHEETZ. And my tip of the week is kind of along the avenue with Brian, is that everything that we do in real estate today takes a goal and a persistence to do it. And if you're not possessed to be in real estate, then you probably shouldn't be in real estate. And it's, I know being with Brian, he's possessed. I know Elizabeth, she's possessed. Vicky's possessed.
That's a positive thing, right?
Yeah, it's a positive thing.
Hope so.
We're all possessed in what we do, and complacency is a tough thing to do in real estate.
That's great advice, Dave. And I appreciate everybody being here today. I always learn things every time we have a show, and I hope everybody out there listening is enjoying it as well. My name is Ron Watson, president of the board of CIREIA, and you can reach me at president@cireia.org, or stop by my restaurant at Trader's Mill Grill at 5650 West 86th Street. If you've missed previous episodes, you can listen to them on the CIREIA channel on YouTube, or go to CIREIA.club, which is CIREIA.club, and click on Resources tab for copies of all our episodes. Every month at CIREIA, we have 10 small subgroup meetings drilling down on specific topics with local investing experts. And coming in February, the monthly main meeting will be Thursday, February 7th, with a panel of experts on what they look for when analyzing a deal. I want to thank everybody for listening. Hope you'll join us again next week, and have a great week.